Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new video. In this video I'm gonna show you a position with opposite color bishops, which in the opinion of many people has quite a huge drawing tendency. However, we can play for a win there as well, and in the current position we play the black pieces and it's black to move. Take your time, you can take up to 5 minutes and try to come up with a move and a plan how to win the game. And we will straight continue with the solution, but before we will first judge the position a little bit, find out where the weaknesses are, where potential targets could be. Okay, let's start with the most obvious stuff first. We see this double pawn on the f-file, which is quite excellent for us because there are some squares which would be great for our king. Also, our king feels very comfortable on f6 as there are no rook checks at all, neither on the g-file nor on the e-file. Okay, what else is there? Which bishop is better? Well, that's actually quite hard to tell here. I would actually say black's bishop is a bit better because white's bishop is just looking into nowhere, and black's bishop might have one potential target, which is the a5 pawn after bishop b4 check. Of course, this does not really work immediately. We will also check this, but it's an idea for later. And also the king might be a bit vulnerable due to our bishop, whereas the other way around, our king is not vulnerable to the white bishop. So what could we do here? The most natural thing to do is maybe trying to occupy the e-file. So when we consider this, we should make a decision which rook to place there. And this is maybe not so easy if you're not foreseeing the plan here. Because if we take this rook, then what should this rook here do? Is there anything to do on the queen side? Or if we take this rook, is there anything to do on the king side? And we will have a look at this later. But first, let's start with some moves which don't work out that well. For example, g5, which was played in the game. So black tried to fix the white pawns, but white could play f4 anyway, because this double pawn here doesn't really matter. White gets a lot of squares, and suddenly also, there's the g-file and the rooks might become active, and the black king can never ever go forward taking the excellent f4 square after this trade. So g5 is a bit premature because it gives white the chance to play f4 under good circumstances when the position opens up a bit too quickly. For example, after f4, if we don't take and just continue, then white might even use this g5 pawn as a hook and try to open files, and suddenly our king is not in safety anymore. So this is a bit premature. We should really enjoy the fact that our king is very safe compared to white's king. Okay, let's have a look at some alternatives. If we play king e5 trying to grab a pawn, this is very greedy in my opinion, and in human terms this looks like counterplay. And the d5 pawn is not the most important thing in the world, as we don't get a pass pawn, but we let white's rooks get very active. So there is a move like g6 which I like because it kind of wants to restrict the enemy bishop. However, it's a bit slow in my opinion, and white has maybe some fast improvements along the way, and we should not waste our time. In general, this is a useful move, however. So what else is there? There is also this bishop b4 check, which we talked about, trying to target this pawn and this king, which is not so easy to hide because it would disconnect the rooks, and then it's harder for white to fight for the e-file. However, white could play c3. We of course don't want to take, because then our bishop would get quite restricted here, and maybe even white is better here, because this bishop is really getting sidelined. However, we could retreat using the fact that we are pointing at the f2 pawn. Also, it's not possible to go b4 yet, because we just take and the f2 pawn is vulnerable. However, white can first guard the f2 pawn and then play something like b4, king takes c3 and d4, and our bishop on a7 is restricted again. So at this particular moment, white is just in time to organize himself. So now let's have a look at the most natural options, putting a rook on the e-file. Let's first start with rook d2 e8. White goes f4, which is very important, taking those squares from the black king, who can never walk here, and also taking this square from the rook, which would be the most attractive square on the e-file to double, and also preparing a rook lift, putting pressure on h2, for example. So black, could basically try to double the rooks here, which is quite decent, but then it transposes to the other line with rook h e8, and we will see it there. However, rook h e8 is even a bit better because we have another plan available with this other rook, which we will see soon. But first, let's ask, why isn't it possible for white to fight back on the e-file? If you have not thought about this yet, take your time and try to refute this kind of action. And we will continue with the solution, which is bishop b4. At first sight, this seems like nothing, because after c3, which is forced, white can just take back. But now there is this intermediate rook e1, after which either the rook will be distracted, losing the a5 pawn, or even worse, the king would be distracted when he loses the c3 pawn and the rook. So he would need to give up the a5 pawn, and we exploited this little weakness, and thus white cannot really fight for the e-file in either way, because always the a5 pawn would drop at least. So what could white do instead? White should play f4 again, because rook e5 is a threat. But now, instead of doubling the rooks on the e-file, we also have this incredible rook b8, which looks at first sight very weird, because it seems like b6 is a bad idea because it leaves the a6 pawn vulnerable. However, this is not really the case, because after some move we play b6 anyway, and the b2 pawn also becomes vulnerable. And white is never really going to play b3, because this would allow a bishop to an excellent square when the white king is always left in a mating grid. And otherwise white can just play something like this, but he will never really threaten our pawn, because once he takes it, we will take the b2 pawn and we will get the c3 square for our bishop, which is very crucial. So this rook b8, b6 is very strong. But if you have not found this idea, which is very hard to find, I guess, rook e7 is also a decent move, because white needs to kind of prevent the rook invasion on the second rank. And this is not entirely easy how to do it, because the most natural, bishop g4, trying to still cover this and this, it will run into g6. And after h5, the bishop cannot guard both. Therefore, it is best to play bishop g2, allowing king f5. And here just a miracle saves white, playing h4. And after king takes, he will activate his rook and play against our king. So here white is fine, but it's very hard to foresee this h4 move, which is the only thing which saves. And of course, after this, the idea is bishop e4. So white can hold against this idea of doubling, but white needs to be very precise, playing bishop g2, bishop e4 instead of bishop g4. So overall, that's also a decent option if you came up with this. So that's it for this example. I hope you could learn something from it. Enjoy the video. If so, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.